In the previous part we saw, some bushes start rustling and a wild boar appears out of nowhere, scaring the horse, but is immediately shot down by an arrow. If you haven't watched the first part, watch it from the channel page or link in the pinned comment. Let's get started. Suddenly two guys emerge from the dense thickets, happy that they landed the kill. When they suddenly see the guests, they immediately head over and ask whether they are okay, as they didn't know there were people around. Ars tells them that they are fine, and asks whether they are the Hunter brothers who recently moved here. The brothers reply that they did move here recently, so Ars quickly checks their stats only to realize that they have pretty decent stats. These stats are well above average, but nothing crazy. The brothers take him back to their place where the father treats them with a whole load of fresh meat from the hunt on the table, while apologizing if it wasn't enough, as he had no idea that the son of the Lord might visit him. Ars smiles at him happily, claiming that this is more than enough, while Char can't stop herself and starts enjoying the feast. The father asks Ars what is he here for, and Ars replies that he heard tales of his son being great hunters, so he wanted to check them out for himself. And after analyzing them, he claims that he wants them to join the Lovent County Army, as they can be of huge help there. The father is beyond happy, as he can't even believe that his sons can get the chance to become a high-ranking soldiers. While Ars was asking about the youngest son, Char notices that a small boy tries to steal a piece of bread and quietly runs away, but his father scolds him and tells him to properly introduce himself. Ars doesn't think much of it first, but decides to check his stats regardless. What he sees next completely blows his mind, as the kid has 100+ intellect and is an S-rank tactician. He spills all the drink as he starts coughing, while thinking that this amount of intellect is legendary, and he doubts that anyone in the entire kingdom can beat him in terms of smartness. His father apologizes for the kid, and claims that unlike his older brother Rose is pretty clumsy, but Ars's eyes are starry as he looks at him, and claims that he definitely wants to make Rose his vassal. This shocks the old man as well as his sons, who can't believe it. The father tells Ars to reconsider, as Rose will just be a nuisance, but Ars walks up to the child and excitedly asks whether he would like to be his vassal and work for him. The kid looks up with fear as he thinks that these people are going to force him to take arms and fight in battles. He starts crying and immediately refuses, claiming that he will end up dying easily. His father scolds him for talking this way to a noble, but Rose simply runs away and hides inside his room. Ars is sad because he keeps getting rejected all the time, but the father apologizes to Ars, claiming that Rose is no good, as ever since his mother died, Rose has kept himself shut off inside the room alone, and unlike his brothers, he never practices archery or wood splitting, making him a bad hunter. Ars tells the dad that physical strength is not everything, and that unlike his brothers, he has an incredible amount of intelligence, which will make him an excellent tactician. Ars doesn't want to back off, and tells the old man that he will try to convince him once more. He enters the room where he spots the young boy reading a book, but as soon as he sees Ars, he starts crying again. Ars tries to calm him down, claiming that he will never harm him, and asks whether he likes to read books. The kid replies that his mom used to read him books, but this is the only one they have, so he keeps reading it whenever he remembers her. Ars decides to sweeten the deal a little bit and promises that he has a giant library in his house where he can find every single book imaginable. This entices the young boy, but he asks whether he will let him take one book, and Ars agrees. Later that day they arrive back to the mansion alongside the three brothers, but Rose immediately starts crying when a good boy tries to play with him. Ars asks Char to give the older brothers a tour of the place. While he takes Rose back to his library, the boy is immediately entranced by the sheer number of books inside the place and start picking them out, while Ars claims that he needs to study as well, and will meet up later. A couple of hours pass by and Ars suddenly wakes up only to realize he slept while studying. He immediately runs down, scared that Rose might have ran away, but the moment he enters the library, he notices that Rose is also sleeping surrounded by a ton of books. Ray tells Ars that this boy is incredible, as he learns new words immediately and has a very deep thinking process. Ars checks his stats only to see that it has already increased a bunch, which is crazy. Finally the brothers arrive and start making fun of Rose for being surrounded by books, as he can't even read. This surprises Ars, who asks what are they talking about, and the hunters reply that apart from their mother, no one knew how to read, as they are hunters, and Rose only heard stories from his mother when she was alive, but she never taught him anything. Rose finally wakes up and Ars asks how did he learn how to read. Rose replies that he learned how to read by simply listening to what his mother was saying and matching it with the shapes on the book. This really shocked the brothers, who tell him that he was only 2 years old when that happened, so how can he remember? But Rose drops a bombshell by saying that he basically remembers every single thing from the day he was born. The next day, Ars decides to boost Rose's confidence and tells him that archery is not the only way to hunt, and that he can also learn how to make traps. Rose replies that he has already thought about it, but never had the confidence, so Ars tells him to try it out. A while later, the old man arrives in the jungle, only to see a huge trap in the middle. While the older brothers excitedly tell him that Rose made this trap all by himself, which already has a bunch of boars stuck in it. Rose explains that he realized that the male boars are angered by the color yellow, so he painted the hanging door with that color, which made the boar hit it, and he gets trapped inside. Moreover, he hung a special herb around the boundary to make sure the females and the babies stay away, as they don't like the smell of that plant. This will ensure that they don't overhunt the babies, which can reduce their population and cause extinction. He excitedly looks at his dad for approval, but doesn't get any, which saddens him even more. That night, he sits down in his room alone, blaming himself for his mother's death, because after giving birth to him she got ill. He cries in the room alone when he overhears his brothers and his father climbing atop the roof to have a drink. The brothers ask why his father was so strict with Rose, and the dad starts crying, claiming that it's all his fault for always being strict with him, just because he was bad at hunting. He claims that he is being cold to him right now, because he wants Rose to hate him, so that he feels like he doesn't need his dad, and leaves for Lord Ars's place where his abilities will be rewarded greatly, and he will live a happy life. Rose hears all this and cries, realizing that his dad loves him. The next morning, Ars comes to pick the older brothers up, thinking that Rose would never agree to come, but to his surprise, the little boy rushes outside with a huge bag. He tells his dad that he can never hate him and promises that he will become a great man, and then he will come back to his dad, and they will always live together. His dad starts crying, and finally all the brothers take oaths of loyalty to the young lord, as they become his vassals waiting for the adventures ahead. 3 more years pass, and when Ars turns 9, his father falls ill. Ars requests him to let him lead their army into the war instead of him, but his father refuses. 1 year ago, the Duke of Mission passed away from old age and named his younger son as his successor. However, the older brother refused to accept the will and blamed that his brother had manipulated it to become the new duke. Since the older brother had recently shown some great feats in the war, many nobles supported him in the War of Succession. This resulted in Mission being split into 2 because of a civil war, and the neighboring Duchy of Sates took this chance to invade them, making things even more tense. Ars believes that he must go to war, but his father tells him that there are more important things he needs to do since his fiancée is coming here. Ars freaks out on hearing about a fiancée, and his dad remarks that he must have forgotten to tell him that he was engaged before even being born. He hands his son a letter from his fiancée, and Ars immediately runs to his friends to alert them about the emergency. He is flustered because he never knew he had a fiancée, and now she is coming to visit him. A maid immediately tells him that his fiancée is already at the gate, and Ars nervously goes there to receive her. In his past life, he didn't even have a girlfriend, so he is nervous about how to treat his fiancée. The girl introduces herself as Lisha, and Ars is smitten by her cuteness before realizing that her diplomacy stat is 100 and her ambition is 80. He is taken aback and thinks that Lisha is a dangerous person who might try to take over his family while pretending to be a sweet girl. However, as she smiles at him, he suddenly forgets about stopping her from taking over his family and starts simping for her instead. He invites her in, and Lisha and her butler see all the servants hurrying to make preparations to welcome her. Her butler is about to turn racist on seeing Ray, but Lisha stops him. She knows about Ray and his great achievements on the battlefield, and asks her butler to apologize for being rude to him. The butler apologizes to Ars, who says that it is fine. After that, the maids gift Lisha a bouquet of roses to welcome her, and she cheerfully accepts it. She walks around the house, complimenting it and politely greeting all the servants there. Ars can only stare at her in awe, unable to understand her true intentions. Soon, they sit for dinner, and Lisha points out that he has some sauce on his face. Ars is flustered and quickly wipes it, while thinking that Lisha is really good at communication, and even he can make small talk with her effortlessly. She is super cute too, and if he had not seen her high diplomacy and ambition beforehand, he would have already fallen in love with her. Lisha then remarks that she saw the city of Lamberg on the way, and it appeared quite lively to her. Ars says that he would have loved to show her around if the weather was clear, and Lisha tells him that it will be soon. Almost instantly, it stops raining and the clouds part, giving way to sunshine. Ars freaks out and asks Lisha if she can control the weather by any chance. She denies the allegations and says that she just saw the clouds on her way here and figured out that they would pass quickly. Lisha asks Ars to show her around the town now that the weather has cleared, and he is more than happy to do that. They head to the market, and everyone greets Ars and asks him about the girl with him. He introduces her as his fiancée, and the ladies immediately start spreading around the good news. Ars soon comes to a place where two merchants are fighting because one of them delivered the wrong type of magic stones to the other. Ars thinks that he must resolve the fight as the heir of this territory. Otherwise, Lisha will declare him incompetent and usurp the territory. Suddenly, Char comes there and offers to one-shot the two merchants to silence them for good, but Lisha tells her that she can't. She immediately identifies her as the legendary magician and claims that she is a great fan. Lisha butters Char up and asks for a handshake, and succeeds in winning her over. After that, she asks Ars to let her handle the conflict in exchange for a small favor from him, before he can even make up his mind about her request. Lisha is already in front of the two merchants and asks them to stop fighting lest they ruin their handsome faces. She introduces herself as Ars's fiancée, and the men stop fighting and congratulate her. Lisha then tells the magic stone merchant to sell his sound magic stones to her because they don't have them in her territory. She also offers the second merchant to buy the fire magic stones he needs at a low price from her territory because they have a volcano there. She says that it is the perfect solution for them and gives Ars all the credit for coming up with this idea. The merchants believe her and thank Ars. Woe takes this chance and asks them to always keep written documents about the deals they make. After everyone disperses, Ars thanks Lisha and they resume their tour. They are returning back home in the evening when Lisha wants to cash in her favor from before. Ars nervously waits for her favor, but Lisha just wants to know what kind of girls he likes. He is stunned because he really doesn't understand what her true intentions are. He knows that her intelligence is far superior to his, but he is ready to take his chances. He tells Lisha that he likes people who are honest and truthfully express their intentions. She simply smiles and says that she will take it as a reference. That night, they have a nice dinner, and then Ars goes to sleep, still wondering what his fiancée's true intentions are. As he lifts his bedsheet, he is shocked to find Lisha hiding there, but she asks him to be quiet. Ars says that she is in the wrong room, but Lisha tells him that she came here on purpose to surprise him. She refers to their conversation where he told her that he likes honest people, and she wants to talk honestly to him now. Ars pours them tea to start the conversation, and Lisha asks him what he thinks of her. He spits out his tea because of the sudden question and asks her what she means. Lisha reveals that she has a skill that can allow her to see a person's emotions even when they are hiding it. When she met Ars for the first time, the emotion she read on his face was doubt. Lisha claims that she tried to be friendly to him to lessen his doubt, but it only grew, and he even asked her to be honest with her. She asks Ars what exactly is he suspicious about, and he realizes that all this trouble started because he had a look at her status. He decides to be honest with her and reveals that he can see the various attributes of other people. He saw her high diplomacy and ambition, which led him to wonder if the nice behavior she is showing was just an act. Lisha understands everything now and admits that she indeed has high ambitions. Ars asks her what kind of ambitions, and she blushes as she says that it is every woman's ambition to find an outstanding man who will fall in love with her at the first sight. Ars turns red too, and the atmosphere becomes awkwardly tense between them. He realizes that it is true that as a daughter of a noble, Lisha will need an outstanding husband to thrive, and he wonders what she thinks about someone like him, who is the heir of a small territory. She laughs and remarks that she was able to read his thoughts accurately just now. She says that this territory is indeed small, and had Ars turned out to be a lousy person, she would have done anything to get out of her engagement with him. That comes as a shock to Ars, but then Lisha tells him that now she really wants to marry him. She states that their family is weak right now, but she can see the talent in Ars to make it big and powerful. She could see that he is loved by his people, and everyone was genuinely happy when they learned that he had a fiancée. Lisha claims that it was enough proof that he is an amazing man, so she has fallen in love with him. Ars turns red on hearing that, and then she wishes him good night as she returns to her room. He freaks out once he is left alone, and realizes that Lisha's ambition was really cute. Outside his door, Lisha is also still flustered about the bold actions she took by sneaking into a boy's room and confessing her feelings, but she also feels really happy about it. The next day, she returns back to her territory, thinking about how the world of nobles is a foul place full of greed and lies. The nobles will use any method to pull others down and rise up. Lisha has always been troubled by her ability to read other people's emotions, because their emotions were always nasty. She thought her ability was a curse, until the day she saw a woman happily married to a strong and prosperous man. That day, she realized that if she also gets to marry a man of outstanding power and reputation, she can get out of this world full of negativity. So she honed the art of lying to please people by reading their emotions, while looking for a strong family to marry into. Lisha had no intentions to marry Ars because of his weak family, and the initial impression he gave her was not good either. He grew more and more suspicious of her no matter what she did. But then he did something that won her heart. While they were traveling through the market, Ars apologized to her for the roads being too rough for her tender feet, and brought her some ointment in case her shoes were hurting her. That was the moment Lisha realized that Ars was an incredibly kind person, and coupled by the respect he commanded from his people, she immediately thought of him as her ideal man. She fell in love with him at that moment. Now, Lisha thinks that Ars is capable and strong, but he is also kind, and she cannot let that become his weakness. As someone who will one day be the closest person to him, she swears that she will destroy all obstacles that come in the way of their happy future. After their first meeting, Ars and Lisha begin to exchange letters frequently. Ars felt a little anxious because he had never chatted to a girl in his past life like this. However, he can manage to flirt a little with her in the letters. Lisha visits him again, and he gives her some flower seeds because she liked the flowers. She thanks him, and then reminds him that he has not given her an answer to her confession yet. Ars is flustered, but she tells him that he can take his time because she will work hard to make him fall for her. They keep talking through letters, and a brief period of time comes as the War of Succession stops. Ars's father also starts getting better. More than that, he wants to tell her that he has fallen in love with her too. Some time passes and Lord Raven's health starts getting worse and worse, as the doctor comes out of his room and tells young Ars that maybe it's time that he starts preparing his mind for the worst to come. Ars feels really anxious about this whole situation. Meanwhile, the current ruler of Mission ends up getting assassinated by a soldier who stabs him in the back like the Mad King, and then tries to run away. Unfortunately, the assassin ends up getting cornered, so he ends up jumping out the window and takes his own life. The next night, this news reaches Lord Raven, who reads the letter in front of his loyal council, and then asks Rose about his opinions on this matter. Rose explains that now that there is no one sitting at the helm, according to him, a deadly war between the two sons of the late Lord is inevitable, and they should start preparing their forces as well. Raven thinks about the situation and claims that now the county chief in which Mission comes will have to choose and support one of the sons in this matter of succession, and most probably the county chief Lumi will choose the older son over the younger one. This means that no matter what happens, they will also have to support the older son as well. But the moment Raven tries to get up, he falls back down on the bed unconscious. A couple nights later, the summon letter finally comes to the Lovin family ordering the Lord to present himself for the council. Ars reads the letter and tells Ray that his father is in no fit state to visit the county himself, and Ray agrees as he tells Ars not to worry. He tells him that he will leave the next day alongside Char to meet with the county chief, but Ars tells him that he will accompany them as well in his father's stead. The next morning they reach the county of Canar, which takes Ars by surprise as he never thought a place this big can be held by a single lord. They walk up to the castle gates where they are stopped by the guard. Ars hands him the letter sent by Lord Lumi, claiming that he is here to represent the Lovin family. The guard seems a bit skeptical, but he immediately ends up recognizing Char as the Fire Princess and Ray as the Grim Reaper of the Lovin family. The guard immediately accepts them inside the castle and starts leading them to the meeting hall, but they end up meeting with one of Lord Lumi's vassals called Ren. He seems to be a well-rounded guy with above-average stats in all categories. He greets them warmly and claims that he never expected to see the little lord instead of his father, before he turns towards Ray and Char, asking them whether they would want to join Lord Lumi as his vassals. This scares Ars a bit, but his vassals are loyal, and they decline the offer. Soon Ars enters the meeting hall and immediately starts feeling like a fish out of water because of the intense atmosphere, so he simply takes a seat at the table. One of the old guys remembers Ars from when he was a child and offers him some cookies while the fatty looks at him with disdain. Suddenly the door opens and all of them stand up as the Lord of Canar enters the room alongside Ren. Ars immediately starts peeking at the stats of Lord Lumi and realizes that as expected the Lord seems to have very high stats and abilities, even though it is nowhere near his father's stats. Lumi's trustworthy counsel in Ren gives him all the attributes he lacks. According to Ars, together, both Lumi and Ren are probably going to make the best decisions for the country. The Lord tells the other lords to stay seated, as he explains that the ruler of Mission was murdered, which means that a bloody war is at hand. He tells them that he called all of them out to make it clear that they are all going to support Lord Curran, the older son, over the younger son. And if anyone has any issues they should speak now. Both the old guy as well as the fatty immediately claim that they have no problems with it. Ars also follows their lead and promises to support the older brother in the upcoming war. The Lord continues by saying that all of them should have a standing army at hand, because he fears that the neighboring county may try to take advantage of this situation and attack them. If this happens, they will have to make sure they have enough troops to defend. After that he dismisses the court, but before leaving he walks up to Ars and praises him for attending the council in his father's stead. Lumi claims that even though the territory of Lamberg is very small, in recent years they have been acquiring some unbelievable talent, which has resulted in them becoming one of the strongest forces around. He tells Ars to keep up the good work and moves out. Before Ars could move, however, the fatty stops him and introduces himself as Lish's father. He tells Ars that his daughter has been very upset lately because he is not returning her letters anymore. Suddenly Ars remembers that he wanted to send her a reply, but every time he sat down to write, something or the other interrupted him. The fatty claims that he knows his daughter was really smart even since a young age, and because of that, he didn't put a lot of attention on her. Because of this, she started spending more time in the court and learned all the tactics and deceit from the politicians. He finally tells Ars that he was skeptical at first about this boy lord who she wanted to marry, but now he is convinced that Ars can handle her, and he apologizes for glaring at her. Ars apologizes back and promises to write back to her. Back at the Lamberg territory, Lord Raven praises Ars for attending the war council, and calls him a grown man for taking that step. This really makes him happy, but he knows his skills are still very weak, so he starts training every day with Ray. Sadly, even though everyone is improving, he can't seem to improve at all. Ray tells him to take a break, but he refuses as he knows he can't take any chances. He remembers how during every mock battle he was soundly and badly beaten, as no matter how many books he might read, he can't defeat anyone with actual practical experience. Suddenly Rose runs into the yard and gives Ars a letter. The letter turns out to be from Lord Lumi, alerting everyone that the neighboring county is invading the old lord's territory, and they need to march against them. This really scares Ars, but he knows his father is not fit to lead an army, so he calls his troops and tries to give a speech. Suddenly his father appears behind him and claims that he will lead the troops, and when Ars tries to protest, Raven simply replies that he isn't a warrior yet. To prove it, Raven brings a prisoner on death row and tells Ars to watch the execution, promising that if he can remain calm, he will let him lead her troops to battle. The criminal gets taken to the block where he is beheaded immediately, and just as Raven expected, Ars is still too kind and weak as he starts puking on the ground. Raven orders his troops to move out, and they all follow him, leaving poor Ars behind as he cries over his own weakness, wondering whether he will ever see his dad again after this war. The conflict was a drawn-out one-month battle in which their forces were outnumbered by more than 5,000 men, but because of Rose's excellent tactics that outclassed the enemy generals, Char's magnificent magic attacks that shook the enemies to the core and filled them with fear, while Lord Raven and Ray used their deadly combat abilities to cut through the enemy lines like a hot knife through butter, their armies finally prevailed and defeated the much larger enemy forces before capturing the castle. After a month-long conquest, Lord Raven and his bannermen returned home 4 days after Ars's 12th birthday. His wife and the 2 younger kids stayed by their father's side as his condition worsened, scared that they would lose their father. By the time night fell, Ars came back bruised and battered towards his father's chamber, and asked Ray about the condition of his father. Ray explained what's up with his dad and how bad his conditions are before asking whether someone hurt Ars. He simply replied that he got the injuries while training, and that it's not a big deal. He feels sad because his father was forced to lead the conquest, even after being so sick, just because Ars was not ready to do so. Ray assures him it's not his fault because he is still very young, but it doesn't matter to Ars, who thanks him for kind words before turning back. Char tells Ray that she heard he has been training ever since they left on the conquest, and his behavior has changed. He has stopped laughing and has forgotten everything as he trains day and night against people stronger than him in hopes of becoming better. Suddenly their thoughts are broken by a knock at the door, which Ray gets concerned about because it's so late. Who it is only to find Lisha alongside her butler waiting in the front door. She seems very concerned and apologizes for coming in so late, but Lisha straight up asks whether ours is okay. She claims that ever since the conflict started his letters have become weird. Earlier they used to be full of emotions as he talked through the letters, but nowadays his letters seem more or less a formality, as there are no emotions in them. Ray apologizes from his behalf and tells Lisha not to think badly of him as he has his own reasons, but Lisha claims that she is not upset, but she is just worried about ours and asks what's up. Ray decides to tell Lisha about all the things that happened involving the execution and how he blames himself for his father's declining health because he wasn't strong enough to take control of the situation. Lisha feels really bad for ours and decides to go check out on him, but the moment she reaches the training ground she hears sounds of a very intense sparring match between two people. She opens the door to peek inside and notices ours fighting against one of the soldiers, but he doesn't seem to be strong enough to overpower him. The soldier asks ours to let the matter rest for today as his body is not in the shape of fighting anymore. Lisha was also going to call him out and tell him to stop, but suddenly ours gets up on his limping feet and declares that his father was in a worse condition when he was fighting through the war, so it's the least he can do as his son. Hearing this, Lisha changes her mind as she realizes how determined ours is right now. She turns around to tell the others that they should leave him alone for the time being. Suddenly a maid comes running and tells them that Lord Raven has regained consciousness and wants to talk. Rose cries happy tears and claims that he will inform ours, but the maid tells them that the Lord has instructed her to only bring the three of them first. Ray, Char and Rose follow the command and enter Raven's chamber, where they find him sitting weakly. He thanks them for dealing with him on the battlefield while he was sick. He then asks them about their lives in his house and whether they like it here. Ray replies that compared to his old life, this place feels like heaven to him. Rose agrees with the sentiment, claiming that he loves it here, while Char replies that this is the only home that she has ever known. He thanks them for being with his family, even though when they first came Raven wasn't very interested in making them his followers. Ray was a person of color, Rose only 5 years old, and Char was a measly girl, but they all have grown up and proved their usefulness to the Lovend family. He claims that ours is not yet strong enough to face the battlefield right now, and thrusting lordship upon him at such a small age will be very cruel, but he doesn't think he has any other options now. Standing on the death's doorsteps makes you realize how many things you have left undone, as he regrets not taking ours to the battlefield before to show him the cruel reality of this world. He always tried to shelter him from the tough cold world, thinking that he could protect him, but now it's too late, as he doesn't think he will survive a lot longer. He talks to them as a father and not as their lord, as he begs with them to support ours from now on when he can't and bows in front of them. Tears start falling down Rose's cheeks as he claims that he will study as hard as possible and make sure to help ours with every single problem that arises. Char claims that he doesn't know anything about leadership, but she wants to help ours realize his dream of creating a utopia, as she has full faith in him. Ray speaks up and claims that his life was nothing before he met ours, as he gave meaning to his life, and promises to fight alongside ours as his sword and shield till the day he dies. They all thank Lord Raven for entrusting them with this task and take their leave. After that, Lisha is called in as the other three leave, and this is the first time Lisha is meeting with Lord Raven. He apologizes for meeting her in this condition and claims that even though she hasn't met him before, he has met her before. It was years ago, when her mother died. Raven also went in the funeral, where he saw Lisha as a young girl crying in grief like any other person would. But when her younger brother started crying because he was hungry, Lisha immediately wiped her tears away and gave her brother some cookies to eat. It was that day Raven realized how kind she was and decided to offer a betrothal to her father with ours. He begs her to be with ours during his time of trouble and help him manage the territory. Lisha starts crying as she tells him how hard ours is trying to be like his father, which brings a smile to his face as he claims that she seems to be truly in love with him. She leaves the chamber only to find Ray looking solemnly at the moon, and after getting out of eyeshot, he bursts out in uncontrollable tears, seeing the condition that Lord Raven was in. A little while later ours was called in, and he came in with a bunch of medicine, as he starts telling his father about all the research he has been doing regarding his condition, and also claims that he might have made some breakthroughs. Raven tells his son to sit down beside him as he starts talking to him like a father and tells him his story. He claims that he was from a poor territory where the Lord was extremely corrupt and taxed the poor farmers heavily. Tired of all this, Raven ended up running away from his home and territory and reached the main town, where he saw the mayor for the first time in his life. The mayor looked magnificent on his horse, and ever since that day Raven decided to make something out of the cards he was dealt and started learning how to swing a sword on his own. Soon enough he became good at it and ended up distinguishing himself in several battles, which slowly resulted in him being promoted to the status of a lord of the territory of Lamberg, and that's where his life truly began. He tells Ars not to blame himself for this situation and claims that he must need to be strong and take care of the people in this territory. Ars starts breaking down but pulls himself together and promises to be a just and good lord when the time comes and to protect his people and his family from all harm. After that, they ended up talking through the entire night as father and son, and by the time the next morning came, Lord Raven was no longer around to take care of his family. The funeral was held that evening, and almost all of Lamberg came to attend the passing of their just and good lord. He called his siblings near him to comfort them before giving his respect to the funeral with the flowers. Tears come down his eyes, but he mans up and tells his subjects that his father has taught him a good many things, and he talked with him the entire night. He claims that his father entrusted him to take care of the entire territory. He turns towards them and honestly claims that he is not as strong as his father, nor is he as seasoned, but he promises to always take care of them to the best of his abilities and asks for their support during these tough times. This really touches the heart of his people as they shout his name, claiming to follow him to the depths of hell. Char remembers the time she was going all out in battle and Raven came to check on her and told her to take it easy as she is doing excellent anyways. Rose also remembers his kindness as when he was studying in the night during the winters, Lord Raven came to check up on him and gave him his blanket before telling to get some rest and to not overwork himself as he is still a kid with loads of room to grow. Ars feels grateful to have so many loving people nearby as he thanks them for their loyalty, while they all bow down on their knees as the reign of a new lord begins, which will bring along its own trials and challenges. If you liked this video, make sure to subscribe.